everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Today you are clicked on here because we are reviewing the entirety of Netflix's brand new adaptation of the One Piece. Okay, I already screwed up so much. I know people are going to say, it's not the One Piece, it's just One Piece. Okay, look guys, look. I already had a very lengthy conversation with a couple people about this, so I'm like, at the end of the day, I do not care. Okay, I'm joking. Honestly, it's just been like one of those, like, I was fascinated by it for so long, similar to how I approached Supernatural and Grey's Anatomy, where for me as a casual TV person, where my only real kindership to like an adaptation to like, oh my god, I can't wait to see how this is all going to play out, is maybe Spider-Man, The Last of Us. Like, those are only the couple of examples I can think of, like, oh my god, this adaptation needs to hit it. They need to like nail this to the tube. I'm not really much about that with other things. Like, I rather them, like, when it comes to an adaptation, it means that they are adapting it, where it's going to have some similar elements to the original source material, but at the same time, they're doing something new. Like, it's not the exact same thing, because if you're just making the exact same thing and just in either live action or anime, then what was the whole point? Like, what was it? Like, what was the, like, why not just leave it alone in there? Like, obviously I know it's for money reasons, but like, if you have the opportunity to tell the story again, you could make some variations to it because it's a different format. It's a different way to do it. In this case, you have One Piece, which was originally a manga. It still is a manga. It's still going on. It's been out for as long as I've been alive, and that's like crazy to think about. That it's still going. The story's still going. It's like it hasn't ended yet. And like I think I've heard the writers say like, oh yeah, no, we're approaching the end. We're like almost there. I'm like, am I gonna hit 30 first, or am I gonna get married first before eventually that show comes to an end? Who knows? And then it became the anime, which is still going on to these days. Like both the manga and the anime has hit over the 1,000 mark, which I'm like, that's crazy to think about. That really is. And obviously we've hit that point in, the world of media where like, things are getting adapted. Things are, kind of, let's take the big name animated stuff, turn to live action. Disney's been doing it for the better part of the last decade now, going into this decade. As for anime adaptations, we really haven't gotten that much, to be honest with you. I mean, I think the first big name one was Dragon Ball Evolution, which we don't talk about that. We do not talk about that piece of crap film. We really don't. And then in recent years, Netflix has actually taken a crack at some anime adaptations of its own with Death Note the movie and also Cowboy Bebop, which I've only seen the Death Note anime, which is really, really good. And I heard the live action movie was a piece of shit, although Willem Dafoe, I heard, was a great Ryuko. And as for Cowboy, I didn't even bother with that. Like I love John Chu as an actor. But other than that, I really had no interest in it. Like the show trailers didn't really sink me into it. It really didn't. And then they announced, oh, we're going to take on One Piece. And I was not surprised. A lot of fans were like a little bit concerned that the series was going to be helmed by Netflix after this will be their third major Netflix adaptation. Their third major anime adaptation. So I wouldn't be surprised, but this was the first time that like, no, the series creator is actually involved. And I'm like, okay, this could be good. This could be good. Normally when it comes to like the extra pieces of media, we're like, oh no, we have the original creator involved. Okay, you know what? That's a good sign. I actually, I'm a little bit in belief with you. Like I can't believe you could potentially, make this ship go. You could potentially do. Ironic, no pun intended. I just thought of that. I literally forgot that. Okay, it's a pirate show. I forgot about that for 1 second because again, I'm not a big, like, I'm an anime fan. I watch a lot of anime, just not the very niche ones. And I've always said like, I don't want to watch Naruto. I don't want to do One Piece. I don't want to do these big animes because like, there's just so much commitment. Like I already struggle sometimes to finish shows that are less than 50 episodes. Less than 100 episodes, that you're telling me there's 1,000 anime episodes for one thing. I'm like, no, we'll leave it at that. And so for me, like, being a novice, and then, I was like, kind of like, I just wanted to see how this was going to go. I just wanted to see how it was going to look, how the world was going to be. I just thought this is going to be one of those, like, TikTok will probably spoil it for me down the road. And then that's about it. And that's all the first trailers. I was like, okay, I'm actually interested in this. Like, they got my hooks into me. Like, oh shit. And then the positive reception from both fans and then critics. And like again, it's not a perfect adaptation. It is not, from what I heard. Like for me, I am reviewing this solely as just a first timer going into this world of One Piece. That's solely it. I was watching this with a person that I will not identify yet, but if you can probably tell by my tone, you can probably guess who it is. But I was watching it with this person. They've already watched One Piece in near its entirety in anime form. So we both were watching it based on like I was a newcomer to the franchise and they were already into the franchise via the anime, and they were giving kind of like, you know, comparing like, oh, in the anime they did this and that, oh, they changed this up a little bit. But from all honesty, you know, and now finally against the one more summary, what was my overall opinion of One Piece? I thought it was a really great show. I thought it was really, really great. And it's hard to do these sort of things. It really is, because I understand this was meant to be cartoonish. This was meant to be on the manga page. This was just meant to be an anime. I understand all that. And the fact that it works so well that, you know, as simplistic as the plot may be, it's your traditional, like, very vague anime, you know, goal in order to write as much story as you can. Like, the goal of the show is, like, there's this pirate called Luffy. He's looking for the One Piece so he can become the king of the pirates. It's a very vague term, similar to Ash Ketchum being, I want to be a Pokemon master, and that stretched him out throughout 7 to 8 anime series. No, 7? 7? 7. Yeah, 7 anime series. So I'm not surprised in this case, like they kept that very vague goal going in order to like, we can write as much material as we want to in case this ever becomes popular, which it did. However, like, you know, despite that, I actually felt like, okay, there's an actual story here. Like, I'm actually getting into the groove of these things. Because the number one thing that, you know, I've always said, like, the story for any show, of any, you know, season of television can be complete shit. Like, the premise is just not engaging. The plot is just not where it needs to be. But if the characters are intriguing enough on their own and they're very entertainable, both the comedic aspect in terms of like, I want to see what they're doing, and also in the story fashion where like I'm seeing their growth, I'm seeing the progression to their character, to their actual, you know, persona. We're seeing changes, we're seeing some progress here. If you're hitting that alone, I will watch your show. I will be immensely involved in it. And that was one of the things here where like I did feel there was some semblance to a story. There was an overarching narrative going forward, but for me personally, it was the characters. That was the thing really driving me forward, where they literally do this exactly how the anime does it, or a anime does it. Because again, I didn't watch the anime. Where like it's Luffy meeting his crew one by one, getting into the sea thing, getting his sea legs going. This is like the beginning of his journey with his fellow crew, which do not acknowledge him as the crew at the beginning. And honestly, just throughout this entire ordeal, it's just like, it is just so fun. It is just so entertaining. The whole freaking thing. Like, this feels like live action anime. And that is so hard to do because sometimes, you know, people who are adapting these sort of things, they're like, oh, no, we need to do something different. I think similar to how when superhero movies finally hit to the point where like, oh, we can just adapt the costumes from the comics, like a full transition. We don't have to do this whole grittiness, this dark patternness. Like, how do we make it realistic? No, if we're gonna make it kind of cartoony but also kind of realistic, let's do both. And that's kind of how it was here. Where like I felt like I was watching an episode of an anime, and then also combined with like, this is just a regular hour-long drama. And sometimes that's really hard to do, to balance both elements. Like, it really is. So just the point of saying, like, I really enjoyed the show. I really did. When I finally tuned into episode 1, I was hooked. I really was. Like, I had to watch these in a couple chunks because I was watching it with that person. So sadly, when they were not present, I could not watch, and I was really bummed because like I really want to see the next episode. I really want to see where things go with this thing, and I was really excited when we eventually were able to get back on the couch and like, you know, watch the next episode. I was like so excited because like I actually was interested, and I'm like, I would never believe myself in a million years to be ever interested in any form of One Piece. I never did. I will say this, the show definitely did not make me want to go to the anime, because for me personally, something I'm lazy. It's just that I prefer, well, the live action's kind of going to do its own thing, and there are going to be a lot of contradictions, you know. and not in a negative sense, more like just indifference in a different way. That I rather just wait till the season 2 comes, which thankfully it has been renewed, thank God. So I can't wait to go see that. But for now, going into season 1 in a deeper summary, there will be spoilers. So I'm just letting you know, if you haven't seen One Piece on Netflix yet, go check it out right now. It's great, it's amazing. Go check it out. I think it's one of the best new shows of the entire year so far. Which I know there isn't that lot, mind you, but still. It's still great. It was still great to watch. It really was. It was well worth the wait. But going into it, like obviously, like I mentioned before, I had someone with me. They were talking about how the anime was going and how it was comparing point to point. It actually just followed like the story beats. Obviously, they had to move some stuff around because an anime is only 22 episodes long. These are hour-long episodes. They have 8 of them, so they told roughly equivalent to 24 anime episodes, but obviously, it just varies because, there's some things like, well, we're stretching it out because, again, like, there's just certain things you can do in a manga that you can't really do in a live action show because that was not the format. And that's what I said before. This is a different format, that they have different approaches to tell their stories. Definitely in a manga, you have like maybe 16 to 17 pages to tell that chapter. And then in an episode, you have much more runtime, and then the way you shoot it can present itself differently. Like when I watch My Hero Academia and I do the research after the fact, it's 2 or 3 chapters per episode because this is how it is. So it takes 2-3 weeks in the book form to make an episode, and then you see that episode in like 1 week in like 22 minutes, and that's just how it works in terms of the adaptation. So I knew going into this that there was gonna be a lot of difficulties because again, like when the manga started, and then eventually the anime, like he was already not writing it for the sake of this is gonna be a show one day, whether anime or a live action form. So I'm just gonna do it how it is supposed to be here, and then let the later teams handle it. And I will commend them. We're like, this actually feels like a coherent story. This felt like one proper story, which from what I was understanding in the manga, it kind of goes on a little bit longer than this. It kind of changes things up a little bit, but in general, like just the way of like, this is the first season. This is meant to be just in case. I do believe in a standalone nature, if this show was to get canceled, like hypothetically, which thankfully it didn't, then, that it tells like a satisfying story where like, you can just speculate what happens next to the Straw Hat Pirates, what is next on their journey. Like you just hope for the best of them. Obviously, it could be also a good jumping off point for you to like, hey, okay, the live action show wouldn't continue. I'll check out the anime, and like, the story's going to continue there, and I get to see what is next for these characters, just in a very much more expressive fashion. And that's another thing I do want to point out with like, terms like, this is the first time I've actually watched an anime adaptation, from end to end. I cut out of Dragon Ball Evolution midway through because I just couldn't handle that shit fest. And I didn't watch the other 2 I mentioned before earlier in this video. For me, like, I know anime, so I know like, okay, like I sense these would be more like, obviously with anime is like a cartoon. It's just developed in Japan. That's the point. Like it's animation just in Japan, hence anime. So when you get into like more like I could tell certain scenes were like, okay, I can imagine this character was much more expressive because again, like when you're like a cartoonish face, you get to be drawn in like very much more bigger, more expressive ways. Obviously, it can work in live action. Believe me, they tried so many times in the early 2000s. It was not pretty. But they know like it's not the same. It is definitely not the same. But they do their best to respect the source material and like is Zoro wielding 3 freaking swords and then putting one in his mouth like the smartest thing to do in like a real world sense? Probably not. It really isn't. Like, I don't know how that would work, like 100% speaking. But, it's one of those things where, like, it's a character trait for the character in the original source material. Like, they have to respect that, regardless of how weird it does or how weird it looks, they got to do it. And some of the fights that you see in the show is like, oh my God, I can't even imagine how crazy this was in the actual anime. I couldn't even imagine. And plus, the other thing is that, when it comes to these sort of things, like, again, it's a similar thing between comic books and then the movies. Where, like, obviously, with a comic book, you're drawing I don't know why I'm doing this. You're drawing the motion, you're drawing the action. And then in the film format, you have to animate it. You have to do CG for stuff like that. And, that costs money. And, like, that was another concern because, like, Luffy is, like, a stretchy character, like Mr. Fantastic or Elastigirl. Like, that's... on a TV budget, I think that was like the primary concern for a lot of people. Like, how is it gonna work really? Because we haven't gotten that many stretchy characters in live action. Like it's been very rare. Like it's usually I think I only know Mr. Fantastic, and that's like it's just weird to kind of like pull it off because like it's different in a cartoon sense, but like when you're doing it live action, like how do you make it believable and not feel like a cartoon? I feel like here they found the right balance where like it is realistic, but also of course obviously it's gonna be cartoony. Like I feel like the CG was really well done here. I think I didn't really have a problem with anything, and another credits like and I really love this nowadays. I feel like the last few years I've gotten a little bit more respect for this, where instead of like CGing a lot of the characters, which is sometimes what they do just to save some money, they actually made some of the characters like feel with prosthetics. Like they actually put like like our Long in History, who are the season's antagonists, where like they're all prosthetic. They're all like they did makeup and everything. Oh my god, it's so well done. It's so freaking scary. Those characters, they look really intimidating, and I'm like, you did your job. Well done. You did amazingly. And honestly, again, it's not gonna be a perfect transition, obviously, because I was looking at the actual photos from like the anime. Where like, okay, there's no way you're gonna be perfect. But again, they did their absolute best, and I think it looks great. It looks great for all the characters. Obviously it's live action, so like let's get things out of the way. Luffy's not wearing sandals because, again, how do you fight in sandals? It's just kind of weird. It's just the sandals are gonna fall off. It's not one of those like sandals where like you have the notch in the back. It's just your slip-on sandal. There's no way they're going to survive. While you're fighting, kicking, moving around. There's no way they're gonna stay on your feet for that long. Absolutely no way. Nami does not have the traditional like certain anime. How do I say this properly in PG-13 format? She does not have the size that the author originally, drew her as. It's not that. It's definitely not that at all. And I was like, okay, that's interesting to say the least. And then you have other characters such as. I'm blanking on the name here. I apologize. Like, this is one thing where, like, I'm actually surprised. I remember the Straw Hat Pirates name. I remember all of them, which I'm very surprised over. And then the other characters, I'm like, oh, no. Like, okay, Bugsy. Like, obviously Bugsy's, like, a clown character. But he's more, like, like, a little bit more designed differently in the anime. And here, like, they did the exact amount that they were able to do. We're like, okay, here's a certain point. It is Bugsy. It's just, just a different design for him. Something that's a little bit more believable in live action, which it works. It works very much well. And, again, it's more to the line of, like, they were willing to, like, kind of delve into, like, certain, tropes from the anime, certain designs, not shy away from it just for the sense of making it more easier to make. No, they respect that full-heartedly. And especially when you get to, I want to say his character's Ace. I want to say his name is Ace, or I could be thinking of another character. I apologize. But there's a character in the later half of the show. He's only brief. He's only there for like maybe an episode or two. He had a giant fucking sword. Part of my language. He had a giant anime-like sword, and he was fighting with it. It was like so big, and I'm like, there's absolutely no way this sword would even be existed by any sport. Any weaponsmith would not craft this. No way. It's just unrealistically uneven. But it's an anime adaptation, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna pay respect to it because if we try to make it smaller just to make it more convenient, fans will say, oh, they did the cheap way. No, they didn't. And I'm like, I give them wholehearted respect over there. I really do. I give them like really high marks for that. I really do. But as for the actual story beats itself, going for the motions of like, I think the way like the story was through line throughout the show was perfect. You get thrown into this world, you get set up with the conflict where like it's pirates versus Marines. If you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, there's kind of a similar line into place where like pirates are kind of like the outlaws, Marines are kind of like the British Army, where like they're trying to keep the seas in order, trying to keep everything in balance. And then you have this one pirate who is proclaimed the king of the pirates, and he has this very powerful mythological treasure called the One Piece, which is very powerful. But he hid it away somewhere beyond the Grand Line. That if a pirate manages to find it, that means they would be the new king of the pirates, and that kind of where the story picks up, where Luffy has become of age, 18 years old, I believe, and he's ready to set out to the world, go out to the Grand Line, get his own crew, and find the One Piece, and be declared king of the pirates. And that's where the show kind of moves into there, and Bob's your uncle there, and they kind of go through the motions of not like a traditional motion where like it's an outlaw show where like you get the crew, you start going on these adventures, start getting more crew member, and but it's not an immediate like the grand episode is the final episode is not them reaching the grand line. It isn't. It's just the beginning of the larger journey as a player. This story, this season was more about establishing this crew that they are a crew. And, when you get to episode 3 or 4, I forgot which one it was, where, like, Luffy makes a comment, like, I sense some discomfort around the crew, and they're like, we're not a crew, because, like, they haven't owned it yet. They haven't really, like, and that was the one thing I was never really convinced of in the anime, where, like, and even though I didn't watch it, I just looked at the picture, where, like, how are all these characters, like, interested in Luffy? And I'm like, how? And it's, like, it's the Ash Ketchum effect, where, like, for some reason, their personality is just like, this is actually like a very nice, innocent human being. There's not a lot of it in this world. So instead of going out there and risking myself high and dry, I might as well stick around with him. And they actually develop a pretty good friendship. I'll get to more of that in the character segment because like, I actually get the feel for one down the road. But I'm like, every character has their own introduction. They have their own, story, weaving in through the entirety of the episode. And then by the end of it, they earn their place on the crew. And then eventually they earn their respect among their crew members. And I'm just like, by the time we reach episode 8, I'm like, I want more. I need more of this now. I need more of these characters. It's like, it's so rare for me to say that because like, that I need to see season 2 now. It's not like, I'm always excited for the next season. I'm always excited for the next thing for a show. I always am if it's really good. But I'm never like this where, like, I need to see these actors again playing these characters and then continuing the story. I need it now. And I know they said it's going to take 12 to 18 months. I know that already. But you know what? I wish I could snap a finger, be season 2 already. I wish we was, I really wish. But, art takes time. Art takes very much time. For the characters themselves, we're just focusing on the main 5 Straw Hats here. Luffy was like, I know he's Portuguese. I know the actor is. I know, but like, still, a representative of the Spanish heritage. I still, I'm very happy for some representation, even though I'm not Portuguese, I'm Peruvian, but still, I'm very happy about them. I very much am. Him as Luffy, which again, like, when it comes to like, when Dragon Ball Evolution came out, like, when they cast that actor as Goku, it's like, people were like, what the fuck were you doing? That is a horrible, like, you don't even look like it. Like, again, case in point, there's absolutely no way you can find an actor or an actress to play these roles perfectly. There's no way. Absolutely no way. The best you can do is probably get the spirit and energy of the character. And that's exactly what this actor does. Where from from the person I saw this with, and then eventually I saw that little interview with the creator, where like this actor embodies Luffy. The energy he performed, the excitement he does in his own character, in his own personal character, is Luffy. He's just excitable. He's just very, very childish at times, but he's very sweet, and he's also very much like, he's a good friend. He really is. He sees the benefit of everyone. He sees everyone's, has value. Everyone has their own dream to follow, and he respects that for them. He really does. And that for me is like, you know what? I'm interested in this character, and I really will. I was so captivated by him that I'm not surprised that eventually, he embodies an anime protagonist so well, because by the end of it, it's like, I'm like the same way with the crew. It's like, I don't have any idea what's going on with this show. I really don't know. And then this Luffy guy comes in the screen. I'm like, I like this guy. I like him. And then eventually by the end of it, it's like, I don't want to be away from him. I want to be his friend. I want to be next to him. I want to see what he's going to do next. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with me? Like, what did I do? Like, now I finally feel the energy for what I understand what that is now. And that's so difficult to perform. It really is. And it's like, it's so rare where like, people come with the perfect cast. And we're like, RDJ as Iron Man, or, okay, this is debatable. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Obviously, we're going to have more adaptations down the road. Hayden Christensen as Anakin. Like, there's just it's so rare where, like, you can never imagine another actor playing that role because the first one did it so well. This is going to be one of those cases where, like, I know maybe in 50, 60, 70 years from now, they'll do One Piece again in another form of media. It's going to be very, very hard for them to recreate what Inoue has done for, I think that's how you pronounce his name, has done for this take on Luffy. It's just so well done. It very much is. He's so stupid, but he's just so lovable. It's just like the lovable, stupid protagonist. Like, it's such a simple trope. It's such a simple thing to do, but when you do it right, it just captivates you. And I'm like, I'm all in, man. I'm all in on this character. I really am. And, seeing his childhood play out and like his influences growing up between his inspiration with his grandpa is just like you understand this character a little bit more so, and you understand you just want this guy to be king of the pirates because this guy deserves to be king of the pirates. He actually has a good kind of heart, and it's not that rare to find that nowadays. Zoro, which I'm like, okay, Zoro, really? Like, Legend of Zoro, the Antonio Banderas. I know the characters existed in book lore long beforehand. I do understand that, and I'm like, oh, he's a swordsman. I'm like, okay, let's see how he does. Green hair. Okay, I might be a little bit I might not be too kind to it, and I enjoyed the hell out of him. I really did. It's like, this guy's so dry. He's just so dedicated. He's a pirate hunter, and then he's aligning himself with pirates. I'm like, what makes Luffy so special for this guy to literally say like, okay, I'll kill all the pirates except for him. He's a good one. And it's just like I felt for because like it's one of those like all these people are like outcasts. Where like it's hard for them to make friends. It's hard for them to find a good connection. It's hard for them to find people they can trust in. But the moment you do find the right person and you actually begin to open up, and then eventually your trust is well placed, eventually it's more along the lines of like, oh shit, good people actually exist. And the moment there was the moment in episode 6 where Zoro got his ass kicked in the last episode, like really epically, and then he woke up and he has seen all Luffy has done for him, everything he's gonna do for him. Just like he never abandoned him. He's just a true friend who had he has no exploitation reasons for him. He's gonna support his dream always, and he's like, it's rare to find that. And I felt for it where like he says like, I'm part of your crew. I'm your first mate. I got your back always. And I'm like, that was so earned, and I believed it. And it was only 6 episodes. It was only 6 episodes by that point, and I want to say they only had interactions from episode 2 onwards, and I'm like, there is no way, but they did it. They made it work, and I believed it. It's like it's so hard to like make that communicate because like every scene that they're in, every moment they're whipped together, it's for the right reasons. Every scene does not feel like a waste. It feels like we are progressing somehow, some way, the story, the relationship, or the character. Sometimes all of them, and seeing them together as like would they be best friends outside of this? Probably not, but it works out. It just works out. It's believable. It's just like I relate to some of my friends right now because like some of my friends like we have nothing in common, but we're just good pals because we have funny around each other. We trust each other, and sometimes that's very hard to find nowadays. And I really really appreciate that. Nani was the one I was the most surprised about. Obviously, she serves as the navigator for the group. And she serves as like she's the only female protagonist, at least from what I'm told so far in the show. By this point in the story, but she's the one that honestly surprised me the most on her character's direction and her motivations. That it kept you second guessing throughout the entire show. Once you get to that crucial point towards the end of the show, end of the season, where like what's going on here is this was believed before, or was it something else? You really don't know. And like, by the time you reach the end of it, it's like, when you understand more of a character, understand more of their backstory, understand more of their motivations, it makes you view them differently. And then eventually it has a much more stronger impact once you do realize what the end result was. And I'm like, okay, I understand the journey. I understand the destination, and I perfectly agree with it. This is where it needs to go. And that was such a well done execution for them. I'm aware the actress for Nami is a big anime fan. Like, I followed all the Instagram on Instagram, all the actors after the show wrapped up, and I was like, damn, she predicted her getting Nami like 3 years before she did, and I'm like, she earned it. She really, really did, because like she is, I think, the right approach. Where like you can never replicate exactly how like a previous iteration done it, whether it was in this case the voice actors. You just gotta do your own thing. Like you're keeping the spirit of the character going, but at the same time, you're putting your own spin on it. It's going to be different. It's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be the exact same. And it worked here. It really did. And I really felt like she decided to put her own spin on the character instead of just making the manga character come to life. Which she did, but in her own way. Which I respect. I really, really do. So hopefully we get to see much more of her down the road. So they definitely earned that from her. Usa? I can't pronounce this one. I really can't. I can't pronounce it right. I really can't. This guy was like, I got annoyed at him. I really did. Not a bad way. In a good way. Because when you introduce the character, it's the boy meets wolf character where like he's crying wolf. He's saying pirates are coming, pirates are coming. And it's like, you know, is this guy just trying to get attention? Like, is this another Chicken Little moment where like, you know, the sky is falling type of ordeal? I really don't know. But this guy's like, you know, it's always a similar. It's always similar when I watch every anime. When I watch any anime, and we get to that point in the story where we meet a new character and they talk about their life before they meet the main character, and it's just like, so y'all had nothing else to do until this guy showed up in town, and then that's when suddenly your life got more interesting. It's like, I always love that, but sometimes I get annoyed by that. And in this case, was just seeing Usopp, and he's just an innocent guy. He's just had a hard life. You know, his dad chose piratehood before him and his mom. His mom passed away. He was alone most of the time. He made up all these adventures just to impress this one girl in town who, you know, they only saw each other as their only friends. And then when the opportunity to fight, you know, for Usopp to finally create his own stories, he's still trying to chicken out a little bit. He's definitely the chicken of the group, but he's trying to evolve for that. He does definitely have, like, you know, I think it's like the, what's the name of the character? It's the lightning one from Demon Slayer. I'm looking at my Funko Pops. What is the name of it? I can't find him right now. I can't find him. But it's similar to that where, like, they are cowards. Like, mentally, they are cowards. They're going to always be the first ones to chicken out of a fight. But when moment comes to shove, when the moment comes, you can trust in them. You can believe that they're going to pull through in the end of the day. And, you know, eventually he's going to have more and more real stories to tell. Because he's been doing all those really bad stories. And, like, every time he tries to take control of the ship, it's like, this is my ship. I'm the captain. Here's my flag. And I'm just like, this idiot. You're so lucky Luffy has no standards for his crew members. All you have to do is have your own dream. And that's all you really need. Like, that's all he really looks for. It's like, you don't need any experience, any prior, you know, ordeals. You could probably kill a whole village. He'll be like, okay, well, if you're a good friend to me, you're part of my crew. And I'm like, Luffy, I love you so much, man. I love you so much. And finally, Sanjay, I believe that's how they pronounce his name. Sanjay, I believe, the final member of the team, and you know he doesn't get a lot to work with because he gets introduced later in the season, so he doesn't have the most screen time as the rest of the cast. But when he gets introduced, it definitely just adds a much more unique flair to it. But like, you know, you're slowly kind of rounding out the cast. It's like, okay, the more you add, you can't have another replica. You can't have like another swordsman. You can't have another, you know, navigator. You can't have another one of the characters. It needs to be something different. It needs to be something unique. And his story is actually the most tragic of the five. Okay, well, not all the five. Maybe like second most tragic. But you know, he's mainly, at least at this point, the rest there in support, you know, person where like he has his own dreams, but he's also trying to help others. He's also trying to, like, you know, either help the restaurant, help the captain that saved him, or eventually help out Luffy as well. He's a great cook. He looks like a great cook, and I'm like, every anime team, every group needs to have a cook. They need to have a Brock on staff because they got to get fed one way or another, and I love that so much out of them. And honestly, just like with the whole thing of it, you know, just like, I don't know why. I think I like his character the most, which I'm like, all these characters are likable. If I really have to rank them, I think he falls under second for me. I don't know why. He just has a great charm. He's just very, I don't know how to say it. I really don't know. And I know in the from what I heard in the anime, he's more of a womanizer, but this is like, you know, kind of like in the midline where like he does have attraction to people, but at the same time he's like being more respectful, and it's like, yeah, it's definitely the modernization of the character. But at the same time, it just works out so well for him. And eventually his banter with Zoro is like, it was one of the moments during the final episode where I'm like, I want season 2 now because I want to see more of that banter. I want to see more of everyone's relationship, them developing more relationship between each other. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to go to. And by the end of it, I'm just like, I want more. I need season 2 now. And it's so rare for me personally nowadays to demand that, where like I'm willing to wait for another season. Like I'm not clamoring for it, but at the same time I'm like, I need this now. I need it now or never. And you know, the fact that, you know, I have to wait a bit is gonna be annoying, but like at the same time, season 1 was just such an amazing job done. Shout out to the cast and crew for their entire work on this. I can't wait for them to do it all over again some point in the future. But for now, I'm giving One Piece season 1 my highest recommendation. Go watch it right now on Netflix. Let me know in the comments below what you think of One Piece as the adaptation. Did you watch the original anime? How does it compare? I would love to have a conversation with you down below about all of it. So please drop a comment down below. But I believe it's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, there's been What's the Two from ActionX reviewing the entirety of One Piece, the first season. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, favorite, share if you want to. Ring the bell and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there. Please be good to each other. And as always, peace out.